they have allowed us to partner with them and put on this innovation challenge. We're inviting teams throughout the state of Arizona to come form teams around solutions that they believe will solve a challenge, the recruiting challenge that the Guard is here to talk about. The Guard is going to answer your questions, whatever you have, so we invite everybody to use the chat room to send questions. There is a moderator, and we're going to use a moderator to facilitate the question and answer portion of this. At this point, I would like to introduce the National Guard and allow them to speak to you directly, what their challenges are, and to invite you to ask questions to them directly. Sir?
All right, good afternoon. I'm Captain Jose Narcia, the Executive Officer for the Arizona Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention Battalion. With me today is First Sergeant Justin Ellison. He is one of the company first sergeants that oversees roughly 40 recruiters throughout the central and southern area of Arizona. And with me as well is Master Sergeant Jonathan Acosta, who was just previously another company first sergeant of recruiters in the central and northern area of the state, and is now currently the state retention NCOIC, or person in charge of the retention efforts for the Arizona Army National Guard. The Arizona Army National Guard is consisted of around 5,300 soldiers. Their mission is a twofold mission. The mission of the Arizona Army National Guard is to recruit, train, and retain soldiers within over 100 different job professions throughout the Guard, including supply, medical, infantry, logistics, lots of different jobs, but their efforts are focused on two main folds. One is your DEMA, which is the Department of Emergency and Military Affairs. We go work underneath Governor Ducey and his efforts of helping with any sort of internal state missions, whether that be wildfires up north or the current COVID crisis, with helping out with the food bank issues and things like that. The Guard also supports other states in their state missions, such as flooding in like Texas or things like that. The other mission is also to deploy and engage overseas and wars that the country is in. I'll turn it over to First Sergeant Ellison, who will kind of go over some of the recruiting challenges for his company.
So I'm First Sergeant Ellison, First Sergeant for our company for recruiting. So some of the challenges that are always present in military recruiting in general is just the challenge of finding the population that is eligible to join, and that's always a hard challenge for us. Our target market is 17 to 34, and just the eligibility portion of finding qualified people who are able to serve is the toughest challenge altogether. Obviously, with the new climate, COVID and everything else that's been going on, that has increased our challenges as well and caused different issues for recruiters out on the street to have to deal with. Just being in a mask and not having facial expressions, just something as simple as that has caused hardship with trying to recruit young talent into the military forces.
Hey, how's it going? Master Sergeant Jonathan Acosta. I was a first sergeant formerly, and now I've taken on the new role, as Captain Garcia was saying, of retaining our soldiers that are in the National Guard currently. But speaking on a recruiting perspective, our greatest challenge is first what First Sergeant Ellison said, and more specifically to that, you have the people that are out there, but to find the ones that meet all the parameters that we're looking for. So morally qualified, medically, physically qualified, and then as well have the aptitude or the education base to serve. That's the real challenge. And then moreover, National Guard specifically, in my opinion, is just awareness. Not many people know what the National Guard is. The vast majority of individuals that join the National Guard, they only heard about it when they first spoke to a recruiter. So in my opinion, that is the greatest challenge, is getting the name of the Army National Guard out there. That is the biggest struggle, and finding new innovative ways to do that in our current climate, but even not in the COVID-19 climate in general, finding ways to get the National Guard out there so people actually know what it is. And then from there, we have to filter down and find the people who are actually qualified to serve.
What we have a question in the chat room. Who is the demographic the Guard is after? And I think you mentioned.
Ages 17 to 35, 34, if there's no service. We also look for prior service. So anybody who's been active duty Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army, their age is a different requirement, but we actively seek those people as well to fill our ranks and bring different experience into the National Guard. I think we're a better culture for that. As far as anything else, we don't discriminate based on any race, religion, anything like that. So it's just medical qualifications that get you in. So that's our target demographic, is the 17 to 34 year olds, and that probably is the bulk of about 70% of our makeup for recruiting year.
Yeah, there's no ties to any sort of demographic. It's those that have a desire to serve their state and country, and then those that meet the eligibility requirements. That's who we want. If you have a desire, no matter what your race, religion, or creed is, then again, we'd like to have you.
I see a question. That's probably, I will answer that. Is the challenge open to everyone, undergrad and grad? And the answer is yes. The challenge is open to any college student in the state of Arizona. You could be attending a community college, a university, anywhere throughout the state, faculty included. What we're looking for are as many innovative ways of solving the challenge of recruiting. And so that could be a social science study that understands demographics, understands the motivation for why people join the Guard, to a technology solution, perhaps some sort of an app that goes on the phone that allows recruiters to better communicate with the population, and everything in between. So ideas are on the table. You might want to ask the recruiters if they have specific ideas for what the breadth of solutions could look like. But fundamentally, the challenge is a funded opportunity for you to get your creative ways of solving this problem out there, get it put out in front of the Guard, and it's open again to anybody, any college student in the state of Arizona, whether they're undergrad or grad, whether they're up in Flagstaff or south of Tucson.
I've got another question here. It says, how many natural disaster calls does the Guard respond to?
Well, that all depends on how many natural disasters there are, but I know pretty much yearly our Black Hawk helicopters are usually involved with definitely the wildfires. Arizona always has a wildfire problem. So pretty much annually there's that part. And then depending on the year, whether there's flooding or other hurricane damage, which seems to be happening about every year, there's usually a part where the Arizona National Guard has supported those efforts in some ways.
And it's also state specific. I would clarify that different states, especially up in your Northeast region, they a lot of times have where they run regular missions yearly to support, blizzards and things like that. So there's certainly all different types of those missions going on.
So they asked what the Guard's mission is, and more specifically what Arizona's Guard mission is. And I know you guys kind of highlighted what it is that the Guard does, but specifically, does Arizona kind of have a focus as a Guard unit in what it responds and supports to, what it specializes in?
So at the state level, when you're looking at the big picture of the around 5,300, again, that's broken up into multiple different types of units, whether it's aviation with helicopters, logistics companies, signal, which would be IT units. They all have their own specific mission, but the overall mission for the Arizona Army National Guard, like I said before, is to essentially recruit those individuals to fill those job positions, train them to do the job that the state and the nation needs them to do, and then retain them to build that bench of expertise and knowledge in those functional areas of those jobs. And then that is to support whatever type of missions those individual units have. So, you know, we have firefighting units and we have aviation. So depending on the type of aviation, you know, they could have, whether it's wildfire or medevac requests, helping out somebody who got hurt on Camelback Mountain or anything like that, that unit would be specific to that. If they're an IT company, their mission would be to provide, you know, internet and voice communications to whatever unit that they're supporting with that. If they're logistics, like right now in the COVID, a lot of our truck companies have been delivering huge pallets of food and medical equipment to these warehouses so that they could distribute them to hospitals and shelters and food banks. So that specific unit would have that specific mission at that time. If they were in an overseas and more of a conflict area, that mission would slightly change. You know, that truck company would be doing the same thing, be loading supplies, but moving it from one larger base to smaller bases. Or same thing, that aviation might be a medevac unit in response to units engaged out in the field. So
yeah, that's great. This question might be a little bit too long for this thing, but we'll give it our go. So what type of units and positions does the Arizona Guard have, and what positions are needed?
So all the positions are needed. So like I said, there's roughly around 5,300. And the great thing about Arizona is it's in a great position to grow. And when the state grows, so we have Maricopa County and the state overall has seen a huge influx of new Arizonans in the last few years. And a lot of that's due to the weather, the amenities that are offered, the job opportunities. There's a lot of huge corporations who are setting up their bases and headquarters here. So when that brings families, that brings employees, employers. And so as the state grows, it also affords the need to grow as a military as well, to support all of those civilian entities as well. So, but like I said, there's over 100 different jobs. So some of that's basic admin, your HR personnel. Like I said, there's medical, whether that's down to the medic all the way up to the physician level. Logistics is huge. Mechanics is huge. Military police, we have infantry, firefighters, IT, aviation, like I said, and all of those kind of big also have all their pieces to it, you know. So from the mechanics, you got the guys who drive the trucks, but then you also need the guys or gals that fuel the trucks. And you also need the individuals who do maintenance and fix the trucks and things like that. So with all those big efforts, there's lots of people and individuals that work together to make the whole organization run.
So is there a need for more enlisted or officers?
Enlisted is our main mission.
Okay.
Officers is more of a secondary fill, but there is always a need for both.
And then this is, why would someone want to join the Guard? I think this is.
So that right there, I mean, the answer for that, it changes for everybody, you know. And so like Captain Garcia referenced, the main thing is you just have to have a desire to serve. You have to have a propensity to serve. The individual motivation for everybody is different. Why I got in is probably different than the captain here and different than First Sergeant Nelson. So really, it just really depends what you're looking for. But down at the base of it, everybody who's in the National Guard has that desire to serve. So now there's benefits that they get, and they might be looking for that benefit at that time in their lives. But if they don't want to serve, then they're not here. So.
How does the Guard currently recruit, and is it different for high school versus older people?
So the Guard currently recruits. It's a face-to-face. It's a man on the ground going out to everywhere that we can possibly get out to type of recruitment. We also do advertisement campaigns, social media campaigns, different venues like that. We do target. High schools is a huge source for us. Obviously, in this current environment, that's become a challenge, and we've done a lot more. Started to lean more towards virtual types of recruiting avenues as well, to get ourselves out there more. So, but at the base level of recruiting, it's a individual out trying to make contact and interrupt a life one person at a time in the community.
Right. And I piggyback on that, which kind of goes back into what Master Sergeant Acosta said, is typically there's kind of a different reason why everyone typically there's that I have a desire to serve my state and country, and I want to give back to the community. For some of your high school, when you're in there, again, they know they want to go to college. How are they going to pay for it? So they have that desire, and then sometimes they're also looking at the Guard to help pay for those tuition. Some of your older individuals, they didn't make that choice when they were a little bit younger, but then they see kind of the part-time job benefits of the Guard and some of the other tangible benefits like the health insurance and things like that as they've grown older and have family, or sometimes they'll seek that officer path as well to supplement and support their civilian careers as well. So there's sort of a difference of, again, we're trying to reach everybody in that 17 to 34, but then the different ways of how that actually goes is different from once you have those face-to-face conversations with the individual.
Absolutely. If we want to support the challenge event, where can we get information about Guard demographics? As in, who is in the Guard and who joins the Guard? So I think they're looking into the actual.
So we pulled that data, and Claudia of ASURE, they have that stuff, and we can always rerun the reports, which shows the breakdown of sex, gender, location of where they're going. So we have the tools to pull those statistics, and again, we'll provide those to ASURE, and ASURE will provide those to the teams. If I'm right, Claudia.
Yes, sir. So to add to what the captain said, data that the Guard can provide will be made available to teams that are successfully invited to continue. So everyone's going to put together a proposal. It's a competitive process. You get to advance, and so those teams will have access to the data that they need, that the Guard can provide, that is not open source. So just a general note about where students are likely to get information. The same way everybody's familiar with doing research and doing research for their papers or for whatever discipline that they're trying to earn a college degree for, are the same set of skills that you will use to be successful in this innovation challenge. So if you want to understand why particular communities join the Guard versus others, you're going to do a deep dive into the demographics that the Guard is able to provide, and then whatever other sort of research you're going to need to drill down into the motivations. Gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but recruiting is ultimately, as we've talked about it, is a talent solicitation process here. You're trying to identify people for your particular opportunity, the business. And the business in this case is the National Guard. And so what motivates somebody that wants to pursue this opportunity versus somebody that doesn't? This is one of the challenges that teams are going to have to figure out, because that's the challenge, is like, how do we improve the art and science of talent solicitation for the Guard?
So this follow-up, I think, is a pretty awesome question. So what's the difference between the Army Guard and the Army Reserve?
Is that Mr. Jordan? So there's a couple unique differences between the Army Guard and the Army Reserve. So primarily, there's two significant differences. One, the only the Army National Guard as compared to the Army Reserve, it actually has combat units. So USAR all has combat support services. So that'd be your food, your mechanics, your IT, anything. Whereas actual Guard has armor, infantry, MP, actual combat force types units. The other significant difference is that the Guard is based out of Arizona. Our current commander-in-chief would be the governor. So currently, Governor Ducey, he actually manages and runs the Arizona Army National Guard, where the USAR, the reserves, fall underneath the federal branch. Another key difference is that we have that secondary mission of supporting those state-type missions that come down. Typically, the reserve does not support those type missions.
I'd have something to add to that as well, if you don't mind. Like you already referenced, sir, so with him saying that we're based locally in the state, the key thing to that people don't realize until they're actually within the organization is that our entire infrastructure is here. So the people that you serve with, the support, all of the locations, they're local. Versus in the other components, you have people that come in from California or Utah or Nevada to do their service, and then they pop smoke and they go back to wherever they live throughout the month. So the same people that you serve with and you do your jobs with, those are the same people that you're able to reach out to throughout the month. All the resources, everything you need is here organic to us. Versus those other components, they come and they use our facilities for different training or for different support that they need because they don't have those things here local to us.
So will solutions produced in this challenge be implemented?
I'll let Claudia answer that.
So ideally, what the challenge is going to result in are many what are called courses of action, or COA for short. So as many courses of action as possible that can be presented to the National Guard that final challenge day. So the challenge culminates in a one-day event where everyone's going to demonstrate their solution. And we're all optimistic that since this is going to happen in April 2021, we're going to be able to do it at the National Guard, which is on McDowell, so Papago Park. So that's what we're working towards. And obviously there's going to be a grand prize winner, there, and a runner-up. However, all courses of action, all solutions are going to be presented to the Guard, and it's our hope that the Guard is going to take teams up and want to implement their solutions. So that is going to be for the Guard to decide, but the key is as many quality courses of action as possible, and if the Guard chooses your solution, that in and of itself is going to be a huge boost, not just for your team and just the attention you're going to get, but there's a lot of potential there as well, whether it's career, further academics. All of this is, of course, on the website, but if anyone wants to understand what are the benefits they're going to derive from being part of this challenge, we run it very much like a industry sort of review. You're going to go through design reviews where you're really challenged to produce quality work. And there are going to be evaluation points. And the point of these reviews is to make what you're developing better. It's not to cut somebody from the team. If you had a really clever idea that you submitted by the deadline day, we want to hear what you have. And everybody will be given as much of a chance as possible to move their idea forward in as sound a way as possible. So whether it's program management you need help with, or whether it's tweaking your solution design, you're going to be given as much opportunity by people in industry to improve your idea so that you can move forward through all the wickets, earn your funded place, because you will be funded as soon as you're allowed to continue, so that what you develop is really the best quality solution that can be made.
And then I'll piggyback on that. So I know at the senior level, they're looking forward to what solutions that does come about. And the great part of what they're looking at is the National Guard is kind of overseen by the National Guard Bureau there in DC. And that is comprised of all the 54 states and territories. So they do some of their own research and marketing plans to come up with ideas. But every state has different size units and different recruiting issues. But to have college students from Arizona reaching out, doing their surveying and doing their studying to figure out what individuals in Arizona, it's very nice to have a custom Arizona solution for the Arizona Guard. And so from the senior leader level, they're greatly looking forward to seeing what the solutions are and do plan to implement those.
Someone asked, how do they get more information on the Guard? And they read something about mentors.
That's probably one for me then. So yes, the Guard is fully supportive of this challenge, which is really great. It's here they are here today answering questions. There's going to be another webinar in between, I believe on the way to the first design review, just to help vet your ideas in a more constructive way. But they're also raising volunteers. So every team will have the opportunity to be assigned a Guard mentor that will help the team understand the Guard better on a personal basis. So you'll have your own Guard member as a teammate, if you will. You work out how you meet each other virtually or not. But they'll be there to assist in helping you understand the Guard from an individual perspective, understand what motivated that Guard member to join, and help you learn more about the culture of the Guard, again, from a personal way. Something better than just reading about Guard life online. You're going to have a mentor with you and your team.
Okay. When do most Guard members join the Guard? After high school, during college, sometime else?
I would say it's pretty spread out. We have a good majority that come in during high school even, because they can join as young as a junior into the Guard. And then it's just, like I said, it's spread out pretty good. We do get a fairly large number in the middle age sector, people who have been out in the workforce and or come off of active duty, so anywhere from 22 to 28, pretty large number of those folks, and some older folks as well. So,
someone asked if we have knowledge of what recruiting efforts have worked in the past versus ones that have not.
The most effective way, and I think it was already referenced, is just going out there and talking to people. Wherever you can get a forum or you can get an opportunity to have a conversation, that is the most effective way. So, you know, radio, TV, billboards, signage, flyers, those are all great, but nothing gives us a better success rate than just having an actual conversation with somebody. And however you're able to do that, or the recruiters are able to gain access to do that is the most successful way. So
can I piggyback off that for a second, Stephen? So the requirements, as you talked about, the medical or just moral and so are there any other prerequisites to joining the Guard? As in, you have to be a certain age, you have to have a high school diploma, and
so yes, the general eligibility requirements, 17 to 34. You have to be in high school, have a high school degree or a GED. There's the medical requirements, which medical, when we say medical, it's not like anything that would disqualify you from service. For example, having a medical condition that requires constant treatment would disqualify you from service just due to the nature of what we do and the inability to get your medicine when you're out in a field environment or a hostile environment. You also have legal stuff. Felonies. We don't take people with felonies. You have to be of good moral standard to join. That doesn't mean if you got traffic tickets, we're not going to look at you. But just it's case by case, and if there's questions on that, call a local recruiter. They're absolutely willing to walk you through it.
What would an ideal output or solution from the challenge be for the Guard? Do you have any ideas of what might possibly come out of this, or what would really enhance your capability?
So I think there's a few criteria to go in there. So one, again, we're like every other organization, and that what ultimately comes down to is the return on investment. So how much time, how much money does it cost in order to get it? Now, in a recruiting business infrastructure, you have to reach a mass amount of people to kind of whittle it down to, I want to serve, to am I eligible to serve, and then actually making it through the ability to serve. So, but I think there is a bit of a criteria as far as, how much it costs. There can't, if we give everyone $100,000, well, then recruiting would be significantly easier. However, that's not feasible to the taxpayers. So that some of that kind of stuff, but I know both from my perspective and I'm pretty sure ASURE's perspective is we're hoping to see what the data shows us. So when you guys go and actually come up with your ideas and see what the data leads you to, instead of curving your groups to a specific solution, it'd be better to let the data drive you to what the solution should be. And then, yeah, something actionable, something that we can implement and get started. It's a good point.
Yeah. Is there a need for analysis? If so, what sort of analysis would improve how the Guard recruits?
Recruiting, I think, in general, whether it's corporate or military recruiting, is all about analysis. I mean, we analyze just about everything. We analyze markets, demographics, what the military analyze, what corporate America is doing in certain areas, who's building what where, all that stuff gets analyzed, certainly. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we look at all that, even as far as when we're setting up recruiting offices, is, what city has the population, does that population, there's, you got Sun City with the over 50 community. There's no point in having a recruiting office in Sun City because pretty much nobody there. They don't even have kids, right? But again, you'll look at places, maybe Casa Grande, maybe they got 3 or 4 large businesses that are planning on establishing their businesses there in a few years. So with those businesses bring employees, and with those employees bring families, and those who would be interested in serving in the National Guard. So lots of analytics. And again, our state, it's a relatively small state. I guess it's considered a medium-sized state, but even then, it's up north, you got the Navajo, and down south, you got closer to the border, a larger Hispanic population, and then, of course, the metro area with a couple million people. So, again, there's different demographics and different needs and different desires all over the state. So, doing the analysis of each of those locations is greatly important.
Is there an ideal solution the Guard is currently contemplating? Do you have anything? Any new projects in the works? No.
Just like recruiting in general, it got to be innovative and adaptive all the time. So we're always looking for the solution we don't know about right now. So we're constantly trying to change the way that we recruit and focus our energy.
What are the 3 tenets of recruiting? It's prospect,
recruiting, attrition,
Yeah, so there's in the recruiting world, it's prospecting, which is just whether that's going to an event and talking to people, whether that's doing a high school presentation, whether that's talking to somebody while you're pumping your gas. That's prospecting. The other piece is processing. That's actually going through the paperwork, the physicals, doing the ASVAB, which is an aptitude test that everyone has to take, and then the follow-up of getting them through and then making sure that they have a successful career start as they go into their unit. That's sort of the basis of recruiting. What changes is the operational environment. With like COVID-19, before the recruiters could get into the high schools and they'd offer programs such as anti-bullying or STEM workshops or resilience. They could provide classes to the high school students, and then sometimes economics, sort of a basic finance overview, and they could give those to the high school juniors and seniors, and then also give them a little bit of how the Guard can support them and some of their efforts on that piece. With COVID, they're not necessarily able to get into the high schools. You could go to a large event, a big rodeo, a car show, a huge sporting event. Right now, those aren't happening. So, but the idea is that still you got to learn to prospect. And so the operation environment changes, but the basic prospecting, processing, follow-up, that doesn't change.
What sort of jobs do most Guard members have, since Guard is a part-time career?
We have
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Teachers, lawyers, you got gas station clerk at Circle K might be in the Guard, law enforcement, border patrol agents,
Medical professional.
the whole gambit. I mean, you could easily be going into any business in the city, and the person meeting you that day is in the Guard.
And I was sort of an officer recruiter for a while there, and then when I would talk to individuals that were going into becoming an officer, you kind of have two different options. You can either complement your career or contrast your career. So there were plenty of individuals, like I was a signal commander and IT commander. I had soldiers who wanted to be in the IT profession, so they enlisted as a signal person, an IT person in the Guard, and they were complementing their career. They're getting their secret security clearance. They were getting training while using their benefits to go get their computer science degree at one of the universities. And again, they're just building a couple of years resume, complementing their career. Then there's other times where you have high executives at a bank, and all they want to do is go blow something up or shoot something. So they want to completely contrast it. I've had nurses who wanted to be an MP because they want to do something Monday through Friday. I'm a nurse, I'm seeing patients. Come 1 weekend a month, I want to be an MP, a military police, and do something completely different. So it's a wide spectrum of what individuals want to do.
I want to add my own question in there a little bit. So is there an industry that is kind of like the low-hanging fruit for Arizona National Guard, is, you know, stand outside the general dynamics or something like that?
No.
Okay.
I would not say there's anything specific that we gravitate towards.
No. Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to what I said earlier. It's just people who desire to serve, people who want to help others. So you do find a lot of teachers or educators, right? You do find a lot of medical professionals, a lot of law enforcement, but anybody, it's legitimately anybody.
I'm going to translate this question for the rest of the audience. Regular Army has already established new recruiting techniques. Has the Arizona National Guard looked into those techniques? That was a question from the audience. I don't know.
Regular Army has already established new recruiting techniques.
That's what the question says.
Can they be specific?
Yeah.
about
Right.
that?
Well, I would like to know what those techniques are, but to answer the question, yes. I mean, in the current, so I'm assuming they're referencing since about mid-February to now, right? And yeah, First Sergeant Ellison already said we're constantly adapting how we do it. You know, what was successful last year is clearly not always as successful right now, but nobody saw a world pandemic coming. So yes, we're constantly innovating, right? Doing something even like this is not something that we've done previously in my time in the battalion, which is 10 years now. So we're always adapting. We're always doing different things. We are developing ways to virtually get into classrooms, right? We're doing virtual job fairs versus in person. So we are adapting, and we're always looking to improve.
Are there benefits for families of Guard members? Thanks. Are there solutions the Guard is not contemplating on adopting? Is there a solution that would be an instant no-go?
I mean, it always everything is depending on the operational environment and then the need of the state and the country. I know First Sergeant Ellison kind of mentioned there's some of those basic eligibility requirements. Depending on the needs, sometimes those eligibility requirements, certain things can get waived. Some things are always a no-go no matter what. But no, I mean, pretty much I think typically for most people it's probably the financial, because we are supported by the taxpayers, and so the government can't necessarily charge the taxpayers a ridiculous sum of money. As long as it's typically legal and ethical, we're not looking for any solution that manipulates or coerces people to joining. Like I said, we're looking for those that have a desire. And then again, there are a lot of great tangible benefits, not only for the individuals, but their families as well. But yeah, as long as it's legal and ethical and not crazy financial, it's not going to be an issue.
So 18-year-olds are not 34-year-olds. How do you reach the older population in the community for your recruiting?
I think First Sergeant Acosta hit that pretty good when he talked about maybe it was you, sir, talked about usually our older community are people who have already thought about joining the service, and that opportunity missed them. They didn't do it right when they were 18. The next thing they knew, they got married, they had kids, they were at college, things were going on in their life, and they just never had an opportunity. And usually that older demographic is typically reaching out to us because they've decided it's time to do it. I would find that to be the most common for older individuals.
And also with that goes back to one of the things we already addressed. One of our biggest challenges is just people knowing who we are and what we do, because everything that he just referenced, you can do all of those things and the National Guard complements it, like Captain Garcia was saying. But if people don't know that it's an option, then they don't do it. The vast majority of people, when they think about the military, they think of the active components, you know what I mean? And they don't realize right under their noses is this whole other organization that allows them to do all of those civilian things that regular life, family, kids, stay within your community, start a career, but also give you that military service and the benefits of it at the same time.
Right. The title doesn't end after Army, right?
Right, exactly.
And a lot of the older ones that have that desire, they're usually some of the ones that sometimes kind of come. There's always sometimes you got to talk to people. But up until a few years ago, I worked for APS, a major utility company, and like a lot of organizations, there's kind of a large desire to recruit veterans into the organizations. And so as veterans have left the military, or they're like the National Guard part-time in the military, they talk to their friends or other co-workers in their professions, and they can kind of see the differences, some of the benefits, the advantages of being in the military. And I knew quite a few individuals at the APS and older people, they saw the benefits and had that desire. And so then they reached out to join as well. So a lot of it just stems from conversations with co-workers as well.
Someone asked, where could they get more information on the Guard?
We have, so nationalguard.com, Arizona /AZ. There's Google AZ Army National Guard. It's going to come up with state-specific pages. There's lots of posts out there, and then we have Instagram and Facebook. You can get on there and ask questions to the recruiters or the team that runs that site. Certainly, wealth of information on there.
Recruiters are always willing to talk, right?
Absolutely.
Claudia, I think this one's for you. How much funding will teams receive?
Yes, the question of the day. So yes, this is a funded opportunity, and we want as many solutions as possible. So how do we make it competitive? How do we provide a reasonable incentive and a just reward? So we would like 15 teams or more, but 10 will be funded. So we're going to accept more teams in the competition, and those 5 teams that aren't funded have an opportunity to vie for the grand prize and the runner-up prize. So the 10 funded teams we'll say it's still in question, but up to 1,000.
I'm going to help this question. So where are the units located throughout Arizona? It's kind of spread out the national.
They're throughout the state, starting from the top. You got Flagstaff, Belmont, down to Prescott, Show Low, Phoenix area, down all the way down to Yuma. Got units in Mesa, Chandler, the Phoenix area, Casa Grande, Marana, Tucson, Douglas. Those are pretty much the big, and Florence. So pretty much along the 10 and the 17 all the way up and down.
Mm-hmm. How does a guard perceive their reputation in the community, and does that impact recruiting?
Reputation absolutely impacts recruiting on all scales. Right now, from what we can tell, I think we are fairly well received in the community, especially based on the local missions that we've been doing with the food banks and helping out with the crisis as they've been happening. So yeah, generally good right now. So.
Nice.
I'd like to ask a question, I think, COVID related. So if I were a team, I would want to understand whether whatever I'm designing ought to include, ought to really factor COVID in, right? Because recruiting, I think what I've heard consistently is it's a person-to-person event. So if there is all this distancing and people are not congregating together, that's in the past. What would a solution look like that really accounts for COVID? Or maybe that's actually a challenge that teams have to figure out.
I think the biggest thing, or the ideal situation, would be something that can be applicable for today's environment, but then also forward thinking to what the post-COVID environment might look like. So I don't think it should be strictly in our current environment. I think the best solution is going to factor in both and be able to be used and applicable in both scenarios.
We don't know if by April COVID is cured and it's even valid anymore. But certainly it's a good idea to keep in mind the changes that have been brought. How many companies out there have now gone virtual where they used to be brick and mortar? And then, how does that impact us as well? If more people are staying home and doing work from home, school from home, how do we reach those people if there's not a place for us to go and physically see them, touch them?
Right, absolutely. And I was thinking along the lines of the way Louisiana National Guard, they had like a little motto was like, we're not preparing for this hurricane, we're preparing for all hurricanes, right? So this might not be the only pandemic in the next 10 years. This might not be the only crisis Arizona's National Guard has to respond to. So we want to look at ways to address all of them.
Right.
Going forward,
That's a great point.
I don't see any more questions of mine. Do you have any more questions over there in yours? So I'll ask this question just because of the nature of my job. Is there protected data or data that the National Guard doesn't want to release or have used as part of their recruiting? Thinking, PII is definitely a no-go, but I know when we're talking about the demographics of the National Guard, is there stuff that's a hold close and
There's nothing on the specifics of the demographics. Again, individuals' personal data,
right.
That's not going to be able to be given. We won't be able to give out potential applicants or previous applicants' actual, emails and phone numbers and any of that
right.
stuff. But most of that stuff, I think even through the ASURE, they got a memorandum of agreement to get all that demographic information. So, yeah, anything that's not personal, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, and I think also, this is, again, there's going to be some research necessary, right? Every team is going to have to be conducting research, and whatever you find that's open source, whether it's census data. So if you want to understand, if you look at, I would imagine, the Arizona National Guard data, and then begin scouring, for open source as far as understanding where the bulk of the zip codes that are joining the Guard come from, and then start doing analysis into gender or other variables. This will help, I suspect, right, help teams understand who is joining, and then I know there has to be analysis, what in marketing terms they call psychographic, of understanding, why this cluster of people is joining, and if there's a desire and incentive to diversify, then it means understanding all the other groups that are not, and understanding those reasons. So it's a great challenge, I think, to figure out. And another benefit for student teams is along the way you're going to meet industry in the state of Arizona that employ, many of them employ Guard members. So you're going to get exposure not just to Guard members, but also to industry. And so if you're thinking, how could I use this challenge for my own growth, then there's going to be an opportunity to pitch your idea to industry as well, because fundamentally this is talent solicitation. So if you have an idea that it's going to really impact the National Guard, then maybe your idea is also going to impact some other local employer. So those are a few things to think about.
So is the Guard only part-time career?
There are full-time opportunities within the Guard, but your initial is part-time, is what our majority of our force is a part-time force.
We have a few minutes left, so if anybody would like to submit a question.
No.
So I think on behalf of all the students out there and faculty who are contemplating joining the challenge, really encourage you. This is the direct way to impact your community in a positive manner. And did I mention, or did we mention, it's a funded opportunity? So we understand that you have a lot going on right now. There's a lot of competition for your time. There are possibly other research efforts that are funded that are going on, but we happen to believe that there is the one and only chance right now that you have to make a direct impact in your community in this pandemic age, by assisting the National Guard improve their recruiting. It's a great challenge to join. The grand prize is a trip to DC to present your ideas before leadership, and the runner-up gets to all go up in helicopters. So we're looking forward to awarding these to competitive teams. So if there are any questions, all of this information is going to be posted to our website. We're going to post the webinar as well. We're also going to develop FAQs, frequently asked questions, and we encourage you to submit your proposal. It's a simple proposal. It's not meant to discourage, it's meant to encourage. So we want to get as many ideas as possible. So please join, please consider, and we thank the National Guard for being here today and answering our questions. Thank you.